So I love Warhammer, and I especially love the Universal Monsters. So my dumbass today had a Reese's Pieces moment where I was like, let's put them together. This video is basically a what if scenario of what if the Universal Monsters had their own tabletop game. So, sorry. So this is basically a what if, because, and I think like Universal, and I also have another idea, I'm just going to say it, that I do have another idea, and if this video does well, I'll do this one where I talk about what Disney doing this, because you have to know, like, Disney at some point is looking at the money that Warhammer makes, that Game Workshops makes, and goes, why aren't we making that money? I want that money. It took us forever to make card games, and look at us now. We're fighting Pokemon, and in terms of sales and whatnot. I don't know how high the Lorcana cards are doing sales wise, but from what I've seen, they're doing actually really well. From what what I've seen, I don't know about sales wise, but I guarantee you. And again, I might do this as a video itself, but like, if Disney decided to do a tabletop game, probably get some eyes on it. Just saying. But for right now, we're going to talk about what if Universal Studios, along with their boys, the Universal Monsters, had their own tabletop game, like in the vein of Warhammer 40K. So that's what I'm going to talk about some units, maybe talk about like what they could do. I don't play the tabletop game. If this existed, I might. So what would it be like? What would this be like if there was a Warhammer type game, but instead of Space Marines and aliens, it's vampires and werewolves. So Warhammer Fantasy, but don't think about that. So let's talk about the basic overview of the story. In this universe, it all takes place in Transylvania, like a much more like a larger version of Transylvania, and essentially what it is that Dracula rules over Transylvania, but it's clear that there are other armies mounting against him from the other monsters, and who rules Transylvania gets they want to rule Transylvania. Like that's the whole. It's a much more, instead of like it's a global thing, it's more like it's just in this one country, because everything evil comes from Transylvania according to Universal Monsters. So that's what we're dealing with here, is all of these factions of other monsters and non-monsters, we'll get to that in a bit, of all of them forming their own armies to battle Dracula as he and his forces desperately fight to hold on to power. So there you go. There is your general story for this version, and I guess I would call this like I don't know what I'd call this, like maybe Universal Monsters Legions, maybe Legion of Monsters, something like that. Anyway, so let's talk about the factions and like a few of their units and maybe what they could do. So let's start off with Dracula himself. So in here, Dracula would be Dracula's our main antagonist and probably have one of the bigger armies in this game scenario. As for units, it would be ranging from other vampires to giant bats to even giant spiders, because again, Dracula brought up that line of the spider spinning his web for the unwary fly. Blood is the life, Mr. Renfield. And speaking of Renfield, I would incorporate hero units to the, or call them generals, for the other main monsters. Now, in the game, you would have, of course, the main monsters, but you would also have in those factions, other monsters from the sequels, and from in supporting characters as well, or versions of those supporting characters from those movies. Oh, I shouldn't have done this movie after eating, I swear to God. I shouldn't have done this video. But yeah. So for Dracula, some of the hero units you would see is Renfield. You would see Dracula's daughter and his son, Alucard, from Son of Dracula. There would also be like Lucy. You would have Lucy as you could get Lucy as a hero unit to have to bolster your army. You could have other forces. You could have a possessed Mina. You could have a few other. So it's something like that. Like think like that. Anyway, so so lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So there's like a few units, and I'll talk about other like hero units or generals you would have in your other armies. But for other units you would have for Dracula, you would have familiars who are humans who fight for the vampires. You would have zombies. You would definitely have zombies or or like what are called wraiths. You would have maybe some ghosts there. Definitely, like, each army would have, like, maybe some of the groups would have ghosts of some kind, but you would have ghosts in your army. And I kind of imagine they would play, like, the Warhammer Fantasy version of the Karstein, or the Legion of Blood, honestly. So there's a bit about Dracula. Let's move on to the Frankenstein army. The Frankenstein army in this continuity is that the Frankenstein monster has grown more intelligent, and he has built, using his father's notes, he and his wife have built a army of the undead of their own, which is made from body parts of others. So it would be almost like the Death Guard. I kind of imagine they would be almost like the Death Guard, where you would have, as another general, you would have the Bride. Your main commander would be the Frankenstein monster, and you would have units ranging from these just abominations. It almost like the Death Guard and a bit of the Skaven, but we'll talk more about who would probably be more like the Skaven in a bit. So like these huge, you would have like these hulking abominations. They're all like these patchwork monsters, and you would also have like this kind of steampunk feel to the soldiers too, like this kind of like steampunky, just nasty abominations. And the artillery would be like kind of like Tesla coils firing at enemies, things like so that's just an overview of what you would see there. As for let's move. As for like other units you would have in the Frankenstein army is like generals. Again, the Bride. You would probably have Victor Frankenstein himself, Igor, and Fritz. Have them separate. There you go. The Mummy. Imhotep would be your main commanding leader, and Imhotep in here would be kind of like a neat like Imhotep. I would love to have him look more like Arnold Vosloo, but I would keep him as like this kind of like very regal looking mummy. So kind of like fuse the two, like the original mummy with the Brendan Fraser mummy, put them together. As for units, I would have scarabs as little infantry units. I would have like mummy guards, like a mummified soldiers, giant snakes, like a giant cobra, maybe some jackal warriors as a reference to Return of the Mummy. Giant scorpions for vehicles, stand-in for vehicles. As for like generals, I would have Karas and Anaxanamun. There you go. Those are a few for there. I kind of imagine the mummies like the mummy units playing like the Necrons, where they're a little slower, but they can definitely hit more. They can definitely hit hard, and also like it's incredibly hard to kill them. Moving on now to our next units, and that is the Phantom of the Opera. So the Phantom of the Opera, you're probably wondering, well, how the hell does this work? How do you do the Phantom in this scenario? I would have the Phantom as, like, in this story, is that the Phantom has basically been living in the sewers of Transylvania, assembling his own little army of, the wretches, or, the diseased. People have been thrown away, and made his own little army of thrown away people. This would be our unit of the Skaven, where they're coming out from the catacombs, and they're all like, it would be very much like they hit hard. There's also like a lot of them, and a lot of them do have diseases, so it would infect your soldiers when your enemy soldiers when they die, or something of that nature. For like general units, I would say like maybe Christine, who's finally gone insane and stayed with the Phantom. For them, I kind of imagine, again, it'd be overwhelming numbers. I also imagine they'd fight like the Harlequins from the Eldar, where you would have some soldiers who are more theatric, like they've taken on the Phantom's theatrics. Just a few ideas right there. Next up, next up on our list is the Wolfman. The Wolfman and the werewolf units I would have them definitely play like the Orcs, where it's just overwhelming numbers, sheer force, and just total brutality. Lawrence Talbot has made his own werewolf clan, and it would just be these huge numbers of werewolves, ranging from, basic-looking werewolves. Even have the Werewolf of London as like a hero unit, as like a general unit for you. Also have like actual wolves in the army as support units. I would even have like these massive hulking werewolves as like big units for you to have as like these big tank weapons. And those would be like how Talbot got those, was like tapping into dark magic and turning and like making them like werewolves made from the supermoon. There you go. So those are a few there. For others, let's move on now to the Invisible Man. This is where Jack Griffin has made an army using the formula, and rather than try to sell it to others, he's decided, I'm going to take over Transylvania myself. So for this, what he's done is made a group called the Army of the Unseen. And here it would be very, again, like a steampunky, kind of like all the soldiers are invisible, the troops would be transparent, some would even be like patchy, or something of that nature. Like, they're all like variations of invisible. And this would be more like a stealth, like fast-moving kind of army. So there you go with the Invisible Man. Really not much else to say about that one. Now, moving on to our next one. Our next one is the Creature from the Black Lagoon. The Creature from the Black Lagoon in here would have multiple units ranging from other gillmen to various like weird twisted sea creatures, even some beastmen from the deepest part of the Amazon, and even like human infantry that are like tribes that worship the gillman as like a god. So they would be like your basic infantry with bows and arrows and poison spears. Some cool units like that, like a mixture of human and fishmen and animals, all for the Gillman. Next up, we have our next one is Mr. Hyde. So Mr. Hyde in here would be like this leader of again twisted men and women turned into monsters. If you want like big brutish, like I'm gonna beat the shit out of you kind of army, here's your military. Like, here is your army to do with as you will. These guys would without a doubt bring the pain, no question about it. These guys would be, again, more like I wouldn't say overwhelming army, but like overwhelming numbers. I think this would play out like almost, well, I've got another unit that's more like the Imperium of Man. I would probably say this army would probably play out the best like, I don't know. But I do feel like it would be a mixture of mad scientists, monsters. And for our final army in here, this one would be a little more original, because this would be the Army of Van Helsing. Essentially, it'd be an army of monster hunters ranging from Van Helsing as your leader, but this would be like our army that would be like the Imperium of Man raging against the army of monsters. In this army, you would have basic soldiers like villagers, villager conscripts. You would have Romani, who are mystics, that would be like your psychers. You would also have in your army several other monster hunters, and even like some artillery, some even like monsters who have switched sides, like want to help. As for, you know, for other general units, this is where I'd bring in the Hunchback, because again, the Hunchback is not a monster. In here, I would have Quasimodo working alongside the humans. He would be one of the general support units to bring in morale and whatnot to your basic forces. So this is where, because again, for some reason, Universal Studios still wants to say, like, oh, you know, he's a monster, you know, he's a monster. I was like, but you've missed the point of him being a monster. Fine, if you want to use him so bad, here, let's make him an actual good guy in this fucking scenario. So there you go, guys. That's just kind of a fun idea I had for the, like, again, I love Universal Monsters, and I love Warhammer 40k. Let's blend them those two together. And again, if this video does well, I will do one with Disney, because I did have an idea for that one, or a loose idea for that one. But in the meantime, you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this story? I mean, of this idea. Did you guys like it, hate it, and what units would you also include for each of the monster factions? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.